The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Today, our guest is Chelsea O'Donnell, the leading force behind the band Stretch Dolls out of Buffalo, New York. This was a great conversation. We talked about Chelsea's time in Nashville, changing the band's name after 3 years, and a bunch of other things. Stick around to the end of the episode to hear a song off of the album Queen of No. This is episode 332 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Stretch Dolls. So my biggest fear with the show is, like, I'm always afraid that, like, just because I like the conversation, that the person on the other end doesn't like it, or if it just doesn't translate well to everyone else. But I haven't had complaints, so I guess that's a good thing, you know. So
that's a great thing.
What were you listening to, just by chance?
The last one I listened to was one you actually had Chris on. You guys were going over the vinyl pick. I think it was back in November.
Oh yeah. So Chris does a lot of stuff with me. He was like my main producer for a long time, and then he had gotten sick and stuff. So I just kind of, and he's such a, you know, he's like, oh, I'm fine, I'll be up. No, dude, let me take some of this stuff away. He never wants to say no, which is coincidental because we're going to talk about Queen of No, right? So he never wants to say no, and I always feel bad because then it's like, you know, but like he loves doing this stuff. Like, this is his passion. He's been doing it, you know, since like podcast was invented, you know. So but yeah, so he does a lot of like the little side shows that we do, the monthly shows. He does a lot of those with me, but there is one coming out. It will be, well, from the recording of this, I think it's like 2 weeks away, where I interview him for 716 The Sound. So
cool.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. I forgot, like, when we do stuff like that, like, it's fun. Well, it's funny because there's a different Chris every time, you know what I mean? So because he's a professional, so
he's definitely a professional, but he's also just such a lover of music and a real champion of the music scene here in Buffalo.
Yeah, that's so
amazing.
You know, we met because a mutual friend of ours, someone that I know from out here, like a good buddy of mine. He had a comic book for a while, and like Chris and him met because of that. And one day, out of nowhere, my friend Rick was just like, "Hey, you should meet this guy. Like, I think you guys, like, you're both go-getters. You both do things. Like, you should talk to him." So I'm like, all right. So he, like, I don't know, we had like a Zoom meetup, you know, it was the three of us, and we were talking and everything. And then it just, like, we started sending music to each other. And that's kind of how, like, our round table started. You know, and then from there it just took off, and where we are now, and he's got 716 The Sound over there, and like, You know, we're always like intermingling and everything, you know? So it works out well. Yeah. And so also he is the reason why I knew about Stress Dolls. It was when Body, the single Body came out. And I think was there 2 singles around that time?
There was, Body actually came out, and it wasn't until like quite a few months later that Ghost Rider came out.
Okay, so I don't remember if he brought both, but I definitely remember Body because the artwork, you know, and when I was listening to Queen of No, every time Body came on, I'm like, man, this sounds so familiar to me. Like, and then I was going that when you hopped on, I was looking through your Bandcamp, and I'm like, that's why. Yeah. That's that song, you know.
I've heard it before.
So, but yeah, thanks for coming on. You know, and you know it's funny too, like how like you reached out to me, for you know with everything. It's kind of how like we set these podcasts up to do stuff like that for that like networking part, and that means it's working what we do, which is awesome, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So, very cool.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. So I want to know about. Let me know. Is Stress Dolls? Is it like a project that's like you're like the center point, and then the band is just with it, or is Stress Dolls the band?
Yeah, at this point, it's pretty much my project, and I guess it always has been. You know, when I started this, it was back in 2013, and I was initially calling myself Wolf. But the running joke about that was that, especially at that point in time, there were so many band names with Wolf in them.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. My God. Like, so many. Like, locally and nationally. You know, there was Wolf Alice. Locally, there's a band called Wolf Tickets. And, like, so it got confusing. And at that juncture, the project had morphed into a band. It had been through a few different iterations, but we were a band at that point, like 4 of us, and we were about to record a new EP. And I wanted to change the name. Everybody was on board. I did come up with the name Stress Dolls. Everyone was cool with it. But then the band like fell apart pretty much right after that EP came out. So then I was like, you know what? I had been through enough experiences where it's like when the band is good, it's really great. And when the band isn't functioning well, it sucks. And I think I just wanted to start fresh, and I actually made a move to Nashville, and I just kind of had then in my head, like, you know what, I think what might be the better way to go about this specific project is like, you know, I've always written all the songs, whatever. It's like, I think it should just kind of be my thing, and then I'll like hire people on if they want to join, and if they don't want to, it's all good. Like, and if they're available, that's great. And just because it felt a little bit easier and less stressful, honestly, because like, and I get it, like being seriously committed to a project can be daunting for some people. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's a little like, I always wanted to really push it towards like, yeah, I want to be playing a lot of shows. I want to be pursuing perhaps working with a manager or a label or whatever. And I think for some people that is, they think they want it, and then you get into it and it's like, this is too much.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it's there's a couple of things that you said throughout that, and I can't wait to go back to. But first, I want to ask. So, like when there's like a band, and then there's sometimes I feel like I don't want to like I always want to say project, when I talk to people, but I'm afraid like they're gonna find it disrespectful because like they're a band. You know what I mean? Right. But like. It's a project. Like, it's like, you know, if you're working together, like you're a team, you're a project team. And like, I see things kind of that way. And I know quite a few now over the last couple of years that are like, there's projects that like, you know, this person is like it's their project, and then you fill in, right? You just fill everything around you. And that's good because you can like, it allows you, I don't know, it allows you for a few things, I think. It allows you to let people figure out if this is something they want to be part of, you know, and it's okay if they're part of it for just a small time, you know. And I think that takes away the pressure of being like, all right, we're a band. And then the person's like not feeling it anymore, and they don't want it to break up because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah. So
I think it feels like, for example, the people I'm playing with right now, I love them all, like as people and musicians, and it's not like I view them as disposable or something by any stretch at all, right? I don't want to give that impression. But I also told them right from the jump, I was like, listen, if anyone here reaches a point where they're like, I no longer want to be playing, like, please just tell me and it will be okay. You know what I mean? Because like I'm at a point where it's like, I don't want to tie pressure and expectations on people. Like, cause I get it. Life changes, things come up. Like, not
goals
everyone,
change all the time. Right.
Right. And like at the end of the day, it's like, it's my baby. Right. So like, yeah, I'm going to want to keep going with however long it feels right. You know, and obviously if someday doesn't feel right, then it's going to stop. But like, I just don't want, I don't know. I just don't want anyone else to feel some weird inherent pressure if they have other things happening in their life that they need to put first.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I feel, and again, I feel like that's like a good way of having it, you know, and it's not more or less like you're the person that's like picking people and then throwing them out. Like it's when people like just when it's time for them, if they just feel like it's time to do something else, you know, and that happens. And again, like I feel like that's the better way to do this kind of thing, especially like if the person driving this boat is the one that's like, hey, we're really doing this. Like, this is what I want to do. This is how we're going to do it. And it makes sense. It makes sense to me. And like I said, I know some amazing projects, yours included, that like that's the formula and it works. Like, not everyone is going to pick a band of best friends from high school or elementary school and they're going to be together forever playing music. Like, it doesn't always it's cool when that happens and I love when I see that, but in the reality of things, that's not how it happens, right? And a lot of the times those bands will break up and then no one does anything else because they feel weird about it, you know? So I think this approach is way better. You know?
There's also an added element, I guess I'll mention too, that you might have gotten from the record, or maybe, I don't know, I have chronic illness issues. So a big thing that was in the forefront of my mind, especially after I had a big blow up back in 2018 where like I just got so sick that I really couldn't do much of anything. And it was like when I started to dip my toes back into doing music again, I didn't want to feel like anyone else was relying on something so fragile. And, you know, it was kind of like, if I need to end this project at any time, like, I don't want it to be like where people are like psyched about it. And then it's like, oh, but by the way, or even just on a show to show basis, you know, there were definitely times where I thought like, I might not even be able to like make a practice, or like I might have to cancel a show at the last minute. And like, you don't want other people to be having to depend or not depend on those circumstances, you know? And like at the moment I'm doing really well, but it's chronic. So it ebbs and flows. And just like we're saying, I just think it's the best for everyone involved. So
no doubt. Yeah. So I want to go back real quick. So how long was Wolf a thing before Stress Dolls was?
About 3 years.
So was it difficult for you to like be like, shit, I got to change the name? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, was it something where like were you worried about just like the traction you made as under one name and then going to another, or?
It's a good question. I mean, at the time there were 2 EPs out under the Wolf name. The first one was completely solo, like something I just did myself. The second one was with a band lineup. And that one, actually, the 10-year anniversary of that release is coming up in March. And the guy who I worked with on it, the producer for the record, we're actually going to revisit it. And maybe we can talk about that later. But in any event, I guess I felt like Wolf was somewhat established, quote unquote, but it wasn't like so established that it felt like, oh my God, this is totally going to flip everything on its head and like no one's going to know what it is. Like I said, I almost felt like it was leading to more confusion than it was clarity on what the project was, just because there were so many bands with similar names.
I got you.
Yeah. So
now you went you went to
worked.
Nashville for a time, you said.
Yes.
All right. So I lived about 60 miles south of Nashville for a while.
Cool. Where?
I lived in Lawrence County. Very, I don't know if you heard of it. It's a strange place.
Is it very rural?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's rural, and it was like, it used to be like, I didn't know this until I got there. Like it was like a really bad kind of place. Like people disappeared and you never seen them again, and a lot of unsolved stuff. And so when I got there, like I went there with now that was years and years, and like when it was like that, it was like the 80s, 70s, 80s kind of thing. And like, but when I got there, you know, it was much different. And my buddy who I went there to help him open up a bar and restaurant that used to be Dry County. So when he moved back, like we were like 2 or 3 years into having liquor. So I went there to help him open up a bar and everything, a bar and a restaurant and all this stuff. But we would go to Nashville every once in a while. I hung out in like Midtown. I liked Midtown more than like I wasn't into like the cowboy stuff or
Broadway.
You know, yeah. I never had a chance to go to like East. Like I've been to East Nashville, but I never had a chance to go to like the Basement or like the Cobra, which sucks because those are like the rock clubs. You know what I mean?
That's really funny because those are the first two things that popped in my head. I was just gonna ask you like, oh, did you ever go to Cobra? Or
yeah, I know one of them got tore up like from a tornado, and I don't know if they ever did anything.
Yeah, I think
with it.
that was the Basement East.
Yeah. So like, you know, but like there was what I gathered from my time there was like, you didn't have to be a country singer to be in Nashville for music because all the best producers were there, are still there. You know what I mean? All the best recording places are there. So what was your experience there?
It was overwhelmingly positive, and way too short-lived.
Yeah.
'Cause like I said, like I got super sick and then I couldn't stay. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like it's not only country music, it is all sorts of music. And I loved that there was a very strong rock and kind of punk scene happening, especially kind of in the East Nashville area. And like I said, like something I would have loved to have had the chance to explore more. But what's really cool about being in a city like Nashville is that much like a New York or an LA or what have you, like you are actually seeing people that eventually do a lot of the time, like make it. And I say that because like, for example, there's an artist, Kristen Ford, and when I was living there, she was hosting an open mic night at a venue called the Bowery Vault. It actually used to be a vintage clothing store / venue. Now it's just a venue. Mm-hmm. But she and I met, and she actually invited me. It was going to be like my first actual show in Nashville. I was opening for her, and it was like her CD release. And then that's right when the crap hit the fan, and I had to like go home and go to the hospital and whatever.
Yeah.
All these years later, I've been to Nashville twice since living there, and I ran into her one time, and we kind of like had an exchange. But all these years later, I saw that she actually was signed last year to Righteous Babe Records, Ani DeFranco's label, and she is now on tour with Ani, and like she's been grinding for years, you know, and I saw it like firsthand. It's just really cool that you can actually see like people get opportunities from being in that. I don't know, like, because it's not like to say that I don't think that necessarily we're in a place anymore where you need to live in a New York or LA or Nashville to,
right.
It depends on what making it means to you too. I don't know. These are all discussions that are, way longer than like perhaps we even have time for. But my point just being like, I just think that there are more opportunities allotted when you are in that space, only because like you're saying, like there are a lot of people there who are in the music industry. There's a lot of people who are doing production work, that are working for some of these major publications, that are working for some of the bigger management firms, whatever. So it's like you might get more exposure, I think. It doesn't mean that everybody who goes there is like going to be on the Grammys next year or something.
Right.
But like, I do think it's cool that you see people who are getting opportunities, and perhaps that also just speaks to the fact that it attracts people who are very driven. And like, for example, Kristen is on the road like most of the year, you know, and I have no idea how she got ultimately connected with Ani DeFranco, but I don't know. I mean, that could have contributed to her success. So anyway.
So I had like a country pop singer on the podcast and she's based out of Nashville. She was from California originally, but she's someone too, like she just started playing in Nashville. Like she got there, she got signed, and she's been on the road the whole time. So like for now she's back there, and she got to play. It was right before she started to was starting to get a show in Nashville. But like One of my favorite places, and I will say that, like, I went to people from Massachusetts would fly in, and my buddy would be like, hey, you want to go see, they're here? I'm like, all right, let's go. And a lot of them just wanted to do like the honky tonk thing. And like, but I will say on Broadway, it's no longer there, which is terrible, but there was a place called Paradise Park.
Okay.
And it was like a trailer park themed like bar. And they had their band stage was a shell to an El Camino. And like they played in the bed of the El Camino. It was really
funny.
Yeah, it was really cool. What time frame were you there?
I was there late 2017 to early 2018.
Okay, so I was just getting there when you left. Okay. Yeah, to that area. But yeah, it was a cool city. It was strange because like if you went, I don't know, less like 100 yards outside of Broadway, you could be somewhere you don't want to be. You know what I mean? Like there was like some sketch areas and stuff. I had my business at the time too, so I did a lot of work in Nashville with it. And like I would be like over by Tribeca and stuff like that, and so like I got to travel around it a little bit for the city part. But no, yeah, there is a lot. And like you're right. I don't think you need to be in any of these places anymore. I think if you have like some kind of like I don't know, like if you have an outline of how you want to do it, I guess it could be a good place to go, but you could always, like, again, people that you could just travel there if you had to see whoever and meet, so I know someone else too. I've had them on the podcast where he's just a musician. He actually works with the singer that I had on before, but like he just does it all. He's just a guitar for hire, band manager, whatever someone needs. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't even like, he lives in he lives somewhere in Alabama, and he just commutes to Nashville every day or whenever he has to,
Right. And I guess like to speak of it, I suppose it depends on what your track is. Like I think if you are truly wanting to just be like an original artist, you don't necessarily have to be in one of these cities to become, an original artist, whatever. But if you want to be like a session musician, somebody who is on the road with these larger artists, somebody who's like gigging literally every single night.
Yeah, there's more, definitely more opportunity. Yeah.
You have to move to probably one of these major cities that has those opportunities. Because, like, for example, like a city like Buffalo, like, I love it here, but we're not the kind of place where somebody could be getting enough session work or, like to necessarily be your full-time income. I mean, like, I think you'd have to be doing, like, people who I know who are full-time musicians are teaching music. They are doing session stuff. They are playing live shows. Like, they are doing every single hat you can imagine.
Yeah, it's everyone I know that makes money as a musician, like legit money. Like 90% of them are like cover bands, like get paid $500 for a night, and you know what I mean? Like, which is awesome, but like, yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Depends on what you want.
Yeah, for sure. And now the other thing I wanted to ask was, all right, so, well, did I have that? Oh, we went that. We did the name change. I talked about the name change just now. That's right. And like, so yeah, so when you went to Nashville, did you have that outline? Like, what was your goal for there?
I think my hope was that, I mean, my dream of dreams was to be perhaps like a songwriter. If it was like, even if I couldn't, make a name for myself as an original artist. Like, I just loved writing songs. And I was thinking like, well, maybe this is the place where that could be a thing. Yeah. Obviously the music industry is so different now than it was like 30 plus years ago, where it's like you would have a song that could make an album, and even if it wasn't a single, you would still be able to make something off of it. Now it's like with streaming and stuff, it's all gone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it is crazy. So yeah. That was kind of my initial thought going in, but then I also work in radio, and that was another passion of mine. And I thought, well, perhaps in a city here, like I could work in radio here, or I could just find another position within the music industry. I've always been really interested in the business side. And yes, there can be a seediness to the music business. It's not all, appealing to me, but like, I just thought there might be more opportunities that I was not being exposed to in Buffalo that perhaps it would be good to be exposed to in a city like that. And, also like I'll mention, they have a radio station in Nashville that to me was like the dream radio station. It's called Lightning 100. It's independent radio. And what's so amazing about it is that they primarily play artists who are in Nashville, like living in Nashville. And sure, some of these people are making it on a national stage at some level, but it's not like they're just playing like a Casey Musgraves or whatever. It's like they're playing like the person that you can go down and see at the Cobra tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was really cool. It made it feel like a community, and not to ramble, but just that the station I'm working at right now, I'm kind of feeling like that's somewhat part of the goal, is like, oh, let's make this like about the community. Let's make this about like exposing the regional music scene to people within the region, like who are listening to the station. So anyway, that was something else that I found so cool and like really special, and something I wanted to be a part of while I was there. And, obviously it didn't end up happening, but now I'm back in Buffalo and I feel like I'm kind of part of something that's trying to get to that place.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I had written down here radio with a question mark, because I was 99% sure I had seen like a social media post once or twice where you were talking about like working in radio.
Yes.
Right. So I am like, first off, I'm old. Right. So I remember when terrestrial radio was like at its height for rock, which was never supposed to happen. Rock and roll music was never meant to be mainstream. It was essentially, it was like underground music, right? It was like there was a time where Elvis would have been called punk rock, like that's just how this all works. And like I grew up listening to the radio, and because of, I don't know if it was like this where, like, did you grow up in Buffalo?
Yes.
All right. So I don't know if it was like this there, but out here, and it started like, so I grew up in Rhode Island, and I had a car, and I had this old Mustang that I bought when I was younger. And like I put this stereo system in it that probably was worth more than the car at the time, and I could pick up Boston transmissions, and there was this radio station out here called WAAF out of Boston, and I loved it. I was obsessed with it. And then Rhode Island got one from a syndicate, like part of a thing for WFNX. So I switched over to start listening to that, because like I couldn't always get the Boston stations and all that stuff. Now, we had a thing here for a long time called the Radio Wars, where like street teams would go out, and fans of like if an FNX or even like a BCN, because there was like four pretty decent sized rock stations out of Boston. Now, if fans of another rock station saw the street team of that rock station, the rival rock station, like there would be fist fights. It was crazy.
Oh wow.
It was insane. It was like and like radio like personalities were like treated like rock stars. I remember hearing like stories of like they would have these huge, because they would throw these big, like what are now festivals, but they didn't have festivals then. Like it would be like, just a huge like rock show with all these different bands playing. And then they would all be at this hotel, and like they'd come in, like the police would raid it, and like the DJs are getting arrested for partying and like being, and then people are like standing on the court steps with like, free whoever the radio person was. Like it was insane. It was insane.
Well, I obviously missed out on that part of radio. But actually, it's funny what you're talking about. There was a DJ here in Buffalo. This is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. He actually wrote a book that I read several years back. He's passed now, but he was coming up kind of in like the golden age of radio. So he had a whole story about like partying with David Bowie. And, kind of like what you're saying, like basically being like a rock star.
Yeah, well, this was like early aughts still. It was weird.
Yeah, well, in the early aughts, because so I'm 34. So okay. Like when I was, a preteen or teenager, like radio was still definitely a thing. And especially when I was like 12, 13, when I was listening to, the KISS 98.5, that's our KISS FM station here. Mm-hmm. It fascinates me to think back then, because in a city like Buffalo, we were getting some of the biggest artists like of the time coming through for the KISS 98.5 Kissmas Bash. Like we got like the headliners were like Avril Lavigne, Good Charlotte. Like, I mean, those bands were huge at that moment in time. And all I have to say is now, like, there's just no way. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, now it's like Kiss isn't even hosted by local DJs. It was all bowed out and syndicates something from New York City. And like, it's just such a different time for radio. But that's kind of a big reason why I think public media and like and independent stations are so important and actually like still are the heartbeat of what radio, in my mind, was always supposed to be and what it should be, which is like, yes, like, okay, we're playing nationally recognized artists. We're playing the things you know and love, but we are also exposing you to regional artists and people who are right here that like are doing things worth your while that you should be listening to.
Correct. Yeah. So
yeah. And so I feel pretty passionately about it.
Yeah. One of the big inspirations for this show was listening to terrestrial radio out here because like, and now some of these people, like they're my friends, and I'm like, whoa, like, you know, like Angel Wood was on FNX, and like her and I are friends now. We've done podcasts together. We've done, you know what I mean? And then like Mike Shue was on WAAF. He had a show called Harder, Faster, and it was just local hardcore punk metal, you know, in punk rock music, and like, you know, it was. A lot of bands got like they broke through these radio stations, and it was awesome. You know, I remember I can't think of their name right now because I'm drawing a blank, but they're a pretty big band. They're not even from here, but they were on tour with somebody big, and they went and they like called I remember they called AAF. They're like, hey, can we come in? They're like, yeah, sure. They're like, we're on tour with blah blah blah. They're like, yeah, come in. And they got like they broke through AAF. Like, yeah, what is the name of that band? I don't even like them.
It's gonna come up later in your head.
Yeah, they like you know what they did? They covered Simple Man.
Okay.
And they like it's like,
oh my god!
Do you know?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I can't think of their name, but
it wasn't Alter Bridge, was it?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Well, anyway, so all these bands would come through and like. And same thing with like comedians. So you know, everyone knows who Joe Rogan is now, but when he was living like in Boston, like no one knew who he was. He was just a comedian. And like he would go to the radio station and be like, hey, could I come up? You know what I mean? Like that it's crazy to see how, and it's kind of like what you're saying with you when you meet people in these cities like Nashville. You know, and then all of a sudden, like they're on a different scale now, you know, and you're like, holy cow, you know, that's awesome. You know what I mean? So there is to my knowledge, the only kind of like independent radio we have out here is like college stuff. Okay. And it breaks my heart because radio used to be able to get weird with it. Much like the music industry. I mean, like recording industry and stuff like that. I feel like they found the formula and they're like, we're just going to run with this and this is what it's going to be. And that's it. And it sucks because like I remember all the independent music on radio, and I'm just like, oh, where did it go?
The commercialization of radio stations and corporate radio just killed like everything, and it's just like anything else. It's like, oh, now it's all owned by the same two companies, three companies.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah. It's tough. It's tough. So I didn't know you guys had like an independent. Does Chris know this? Like I feel like he should be there. You know what I mean? Like because there's stuff like it. You know, there's stuff that we're working on behind the scenes that would be like kind of adjacent to something like not like, you know, not terrestrial radio by any means, but like we're working on other things where we're trying to, because like the goal for us is just to get like these independent artists, like everyone needs to hear Stress Dolls. You know what I mean? These are the bands like we work with bands for this reason. Like this is why we do the shows that we do. We want to give exposure to all of you. Like has nothing to do with like us, you know what I mean? Like I went to broadcasting school. Like I wanted to get into radio, and like I knew I had to start at the bottom and I was going to have to eat dirt for a while. And like, you know, I was just blessed with like being able to write copy. Like I was really decent at it. Never got in. I had one interview, and then as you might know this from working in radio, it's about who you know too, right? To get in somewhere. I knew this guy. I got the interview. It went well, and then I never heard back. Turns out they fired him, so they weren't going to bring in the hire that he had.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, I got a lot of those stories. Like I was just there. I was right there, you know?
Yeah, it happens to all of us.
So what do you do in radio?
So I work at, like I said, WBFO The Bridge, which is our region's NPR affiliate. It's part of Buffalo Toronto Public Media, excuse me. And my radio show is actually called The Scene, and it's all artists based in Western New York and Southern Ontario.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah. So like I'm playing artists from Buffalo and Toronto and like everywhere in between. And the whole point is to showcase the local music community to the local listener community. And yeah, it's been cool so far. The show's been on a little bit over a year. There's still a lot of brainstorming going on. There's still a lot of plans behind the scenes. Hopefully we're going to start enacting some of those things in 2025, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I feel really blessed to be like part of this community because, and that's really what my entire time in radio, almost my entire time, has always been hosting local music programs. So yeah,
that's cool. Now, did you move around with the radio, or is it you've just done it there, or?
So, let's see. Do you want me to give you a rundown of how it all happened?
Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. So
if you don't mind, the only reason why I asked that because like there's like a I don't think people realize this, but like with radio, it's not like you find one station and you're there forever.
No.
Right.
God,
you
no.
bounce around quite a bit. Like one of the people, my friend Mike Shue, he's on the Pike FM in Worcester because AAF shut their doors. He worked in one radio station, I think in like Virginia, and then moved back to Massachusetts, got a job with AAF, and was there for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they shut their doors, so he went to the one in Worcester where he lives in that city. So,
wow.
Yeah, so like that's a rare story, but like I don't think people realize what the reality of radio is, and it's like you move around quite a bit, right?
Yeah, people who got in the door, especially the time I was getting in the door, which was like the early 2010s, like no, it's not like that anymore. Like maybe if you got in the door back in the 90s, like because there are still people in some of the corporate stations here that like have been on the air for 30 plus years, but that's like you said, it's rare, especially in music-based radio. It's very rare. Taking it back to college, I went to a state school in New York called Fredonia, and to make a very long story short, was undeclared at first, but then decided to go into the communications major, and they had an audio radio track, and since I love music, I thought that would be a cool thing to do. By my senior year, I became program director of our school station. And during that time, I created a show called The Local Lowdown, which was all about the local music scene in Fredonia and Buffalo and beyond. And the whole format was that we would play, recorded music for the first 20 minutes, do at the bottom of the hour a interview segment and live performance, and then recorded music toward the end. And I only had the show for one semester because I was graduating, but I ended up handing it off to an incoming freshman, and the show still exists now, which is pretty
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then I graduated college. I went on to work full-time as a producer in radio, and then just kind of like right place, right time. That station, or that company rather, was starting an alternative music station. So I met with the program director like as soon as I could, and I was like, yo, I want to do a local music show. And he was receptive, and so then the show Localized came to be, and it was honestly like the exact same format as the Local Lowdown.
Perfect.
Which was awesome. So I had that show for 4 years, and then that was when I kind of decided, like, I think I want to make the move to Nashville, like we talked about. When I was in Nashville, I worked as a freelance journalist for actually the Grand Ole Opry radio station, WSM 650 AM, which was cool. I really tried to get into Lightning 100. I did have an interview, and it was right before I left. And then like while I was then back home, like sick after this insane hospitalization, I got this email from them like, hey, like we're hiring, we're interested in having you back. And I was like, yeah, I'm no longer there.
Oh.
I know. It was just like, oh God.
Yeah.
So that was like twist the knife a little more, But then I was out of radio then for quite a while because, in between dealing with illness, but then like, performing, and I didn't really have a desire to go back. Like really my passion of it was because of doing the whole local music thing. Yep. Like that was really what I felt, passionate about. So the opportunity for this job came because a couple of years back, WBFO The Bridge came to be. At first I was applying. Then they told me like, please stop applying. We are not hiring. So I was like, okay. And they did end up.
It makes for a good story, though, right? Like,
right? Yeah, I was being real annoying, and I kind of knew I was, and they were like, "Yeah, stop! Like, we get it, stop." But then they ended up hiring the program director, Tiffany Bentley, and she was actually one of my former coworkers, and so I reached out to her, not even about a job at that point, because I was kind of thinking like, okay, they told me to step off, so I'm just like not gonna, bug her. But I was sending her my music, and I was like, hey, do you think this would maybe at all be a fit for the programming? And she was like, yeah, this is cool. Also, I wanted to reach out to you because I was wondering, would you do a local music show again?
Amazing.
And so that's how it happened. It was a lucky, cool thing, and I'm lucky that she was so warm and welcoming to invite me back. And I don't know. I'm just really grateful to be doing it. So we'll see what happens.
That's so awesome. And like, it's cool. So the weird thing, well, I guess like at the time, I guess it really wasn't a thing, but like when 2020 hit and everything got shut down, people in radio learned you could do it from home.
Right.
And one of the biggest things this is from one people I know out here that worked in radio, is like they all started buying this thing called the Rodecaster. Rode makes like this like studio all-in-one kind of interface thing. It's faders and everything, and like it wasn't really designed for that, but it worked. And then so the Rodecaster came out in like 2019, and then 2020 hit, everything happened. And then they started getting like people going, not complaining, but like, hey, this is awesome, but if it did this, it would be better. Mm-hmm. So they made the second generation Rodecaster in like 2021. It wasn't very long. I have one of those now. I bought it last year. And like, I used the shit out of this thing. The first thing I did with it was I was like, I'm doing a radio show on my Patreon. And that's what I do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I bring like independent music to it, and I do this radio show, and like, it's probably been one of the most consistent things we've done on the Patreon is this like stupid little radio, like, and it's just me pretending I'm a DJ. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's I'm living my dream.
Yeah, I mean, people listen.
yeah. So it's like a super cool device, but like, so some of the radio people I know now, like I only know like one person that still does like a live show. And then everything else, people don't know it's recorded, but like, everyone else, I'm not going to say who does which one, but everything else is recorded. You know what I mean? And like, I know someone that's got like shows all over the country now, and they like, it's I don't know if it's the same show and they just put it everywhere, or if like they're doing a couple different, or it's probably the same show and they're just doing different breaks, right? They're just recording different breaks for each one, but like it's you can do it now that way. So what I'm saying is you should maybe reapply to that one in Nashville, but what you got going on now is awesome. So I don't want you to ruin it all.
Let's not rock the boat.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. No, I promise I'm not. You could have more than one. Oh, that is so cool. And I am so, honestly, you're the first person I've talked to that I didn't know there was, like I said, outside of college radio, I didn't know there was like any kind of independent like music out there on the FM dials. I really didn't. It's good. It's cool to hear. Like, I want to, what is it? What's the station?
WBFO The Bridge.
Now I'm assuming you're online as well.
Yes. So actually right now it's primarily on the HD2 dial. 88.7 FM HD2, but during the weeknights and weekend nights, it is on the regular FM dial. 7 FM, yeah. So we'll see what happens.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, please keep me posted on that. Because like I said, I am a radio nerd, and like it's stupid, but I am, and like it's like I hate streaming. I really do. Like in the podcast, like. It took me a long time to be like, yeah, dude, what you're like to myself, like, hey, Trev, like what you're doing is good. Like, it's not, because I'm like, I do. People are like, what do you do for fun? I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes funny story. I went to a show and I invited my boss for some reason, and he went, and him and his wife came, and we were there having dinner, and like all these people from like bands were coming up to me and talking to me. Yeah. And he's looking at me and he's like, who the fuck are you, dude? And so I was like, well, I don't know. I just know a lot of musicians and stuff. And he's like, and I'm like, so I do this stupid little podcast thing. I was like, it was almost embarrassing to say I had a podcast.
That's not embarrassing.
I know. At the time, I just didn't quite get it. You know, like I didn't quite understand like what I've been doing. You know what I mean? So, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess it's kind of like if you know, it's like it's an alternative to what radio is or whatever. So,
but you're helping out musicians, and
that's all I care about. Yeah, yeah. So matters. Exactly. So I'm sorry we went in this huge like circle. We're coming back around to Stress Dolls right now. I want to know a lot of things about Queen of No. I also want to know who does like. All right, so it seems like I believe these are 4 singles that came from Queen of No, right? Mm-hmm. That range from within like is it a year of each other?
Yeah, they started coming out in 2023, and then I think the last one came out 2024, like very close to the album release.
Yeah, okay, cool. Now, tell me about the artwork, because it all has a vibe.
For sure.
Every single has a vibe. Like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a Frank Miller comic.
Okay. That's super cool.
So tell me, like, did you design this, or did you have the idea and you had an artist do it, or?
So Queen of No is the first record where I worked with an indie label, Sun Pedal Recordings.
Right
and
on.
They have an in-house artist named Osi Okoro. And so she and I kind of worked together on the concepts, but then she would kind of take it into her own imagination and come up with, and she's incredible. I mean, you can see it evidenced in the artwork. Like, she would blow me away every single time. Like, I would say to her, like, yeah, I'm thinking, something kind of like this. And I am an artist, but like, I'm not on her level. Like, my art is very different from hers. And so like, I would draw my best thought of what I was imagining, but then she would make something like 1,000 times better. And so that's the person who did all the artwork, Osi.
Yeah. Now, did you like like the color patterns and everything? Did you have any say in any of that? Because I feel like it fits the vibe of the album.
It does. So the first single, which was Body, we kind of really collaborated on that as far as like the final image with the t-shirt and whatever. And I really wanted like the guts to be, I think it was at first like a hot pink color. And then we decided to do red instead. I can't remember why. But so from there on out, it kind of seemed like, okay, we're going to go black, white, red for like every single thing. And actually, I think that ended up working super well. Like once the album art itself was completed, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like there's a cohesive color choice. Like there's a cohesive like pattern in the artwork kind of running throughout the entire thing. And it's really the first time I've ever had a release that's been like that. So I'm really grateful to her. And
Hell yeah. Yeah, it works so well. Man, I love the cover. I love the cover of the album. Like the boots and like, yeah. And it's just like, it's not something that's like super in your face, but it pops so well. You know what I mean? That's awesome. And like, I've seen the picture that they took, that they made the art from, you know what I mean? Spot on, right? Spot on. That's awesome. And then that's like one of the most, is it red, the vinyl? It's so vibrant looking.
Yeah,
like
it's a very, very, very bright red that almost looks hot pink in certain light, which I love.
Yeah. And now, was this your first vinyl release ever?
Yeah, first one.
Oh, tell me how that felt.
It felt surreal.
Yeah.
Honestly, like totally surreal. And honestly, like even I've printed CDs before independently, but like even getting the CD and seeing on the little spine the catalog number, like, you know, Sun Pedal 12, like growing up, I was obsessed with CDs. I was always looking through the liner notes. I was like just pouring through them. And I remember looking at all the spines and seeing like, oh, like, you know, the label catalog number. And it seems so stupid, I guess, but like that really did mean something to me. It was like, okay, this is something I dreamed of since I was like 12 years old, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it's not stupid. That's awesome. And like, that's how, you know, so that's how I was with cassette tapes. Cassette tapes, like you take out the J card and it's this huge accordion thing. It looks like a CVS receipt. You know what I mean? And it's got awesome artwork and everything. And like, when CDs came out, I did the same thing. Like when I would make, you know, like your CD booklets, like I would make sure the book was in there with it. You know what I mean? Like I'd make sure the book was out. And then to go even further, like I would take apart the jewel case and take the J card out of the back, or whatever kind of card it was, out of the back, and put that in there too. Like it's music. I always like music is art, and I think everyone knows that. But like everything that comes with the physical media of it is also art, and it adds a different layer to the music. And I think that's what we lose with streaming a lot.
100% agree. There's something about having a tangible object that you can look at and relate. I don't know. There's just, it's different. And it's why, like, I think I still feel more of a closeness with some of the records that, like, I grew up with, or maybe I still do buy CDs if I can, but now people, you know, they don't put a lot of effort into them because they're thinking like no one's going to buy these. So even if you buy one from an artist who is, it's like usually like even some of the major label ones, they're just like a slip of paper. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing to them. And
I've never felt more cheated than when I open up a CD and it's just a blank side on the inside.
Yeah, I know. Like, I really miss like the booklet thing, whatever. Actually, when we were doing the CDs for Queen of No, I did ask the label. I was like, could we please like have like a lyric booklet? That's been my dream for forever. And they were like, we're not doing a booklet, but you can do like a, you know, where it folds open on the inside and it will have the lyrics on it. I was like, okay, fine. We'll do that. I
have a couple records here that like from bands that like, and they did do they like, we need to have the book, like they you know, but it's also they're self-releasing too, so they're pouring, you know what I mean, where the label may have more money than us to put out a record, but they're also putting out 10 other records too, right? So they gotta you know, you gotta trim it the way you can. But yeah, I mean, if you can see behind me, like obviously, I feel like their artwork, right? They're hung up on the walls.
An entire wall full of.
I have test pressings, and then I have and then like the yellow one behind me, like I have every color variant that came out. So like, I'm crazy. I'm just crazy. Like I guess I'm a collector. I don't either that or well, some say collector, some say addict. I don't know. You know, maybe.
It's cool,
I have a lot. Yeah, it's cool. I like it. So, and I really like I said, I really like what yours looks like. There will be. Yeah. We'll talk later about that. But yeah. Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah. This. Now. Tell me, like, do you have any say in? Because it looks like you did have say in like the coloring of this, like in how you wanted it to go. With like the tracking, like how you wanted your track list to go. And now tell me, like, I am a storyteller. I write, and like sometimes I will get an overarching story out of something that technically they didn't really think about, but it's there. But tell me about why, like, tracking this the way you did. You know what I mean? Like, tell me what the thought that went into that.
Interesting question. I've always been a big fan of the album, and of the album, like you just said, like either telling a story or just even like not a story through the lyrics, but just a story in the way that you're feeling throughout, right? Like picking up, slowing down, what have you. So I kind of ended up piling the singles all in the beginning, just because I kind of felt like those were big driving songs to kind of get you immersed like into what was supposed to be happening, what you should be expecting. And then I guess like Illusion and Crazy, I think, are where it breaks away from the singles, and that's sort of like the middle of the record. And those songs kind of always tie together. I play them together live all the time. They're supposed to be one following the other.
See, I'm writing that. I'm gonna go back and listen and feel it. Yeah,
they have the same subject matter. So and then from there, I wanted to do like Pretty, Queen of No, like those are kind of rockers as well. Spark is more of an introspective track, and actually one of the older songs on the record. I wrote that one back in 2013. And Better, though, is actually probably the most recent song on that album at that time. And I intentionally wrote it for this record, and I intentionally wrote it as the closer of the album. And I did that because all those songs, they kind of came from all different points of the last 10 years prior to recording that record. Like some of them were old, like Crazy is an older song. Illusion that goes into it came later, but I wrote it specifically for Crazy. Close Enough was written over the pandemic. Like Ghostwriter was written in 2021. Like they were kind of all over the map, right? But like, I think at the end of the day, they sort of all related to each other in that they kind of tell the story of like what happened in my life leading up to making this record that I had always dreamed of being able to make, right? It's like the debut album. And so I really wanted to end everything on a triumphant note because, especially like given the health stuff and whatever. And like, so right around the time we released the single for Body, which has to do with my chronic illness issues, and one of the early songs I wrote about it. So it is rather angsty because it was when I was really struggling, with those
and
feelings.
Angry and
very angry. I actually had been in remission for like 2 years, and then I went back into a flare up, and I was totally heartbroken. I was like, this is the sickest kind of irony, right? It's like we're releasing this Body single, and now my body is breaking down on me again. And I was just like, are you kidding me? But it was also, once again, like a reminder of all that had happened and how hard I had worked and like things that had come true, even though, shit hits the fan, like, I never had given up. And like I tell people all the time, it's like, don't give up. You know what I mean? It's like, because even if they don't happen the way you expect them to, like things can still happen. So anyway, I wanted to be able to end on a hopeful note. And so Better, the chorus is what came to me first. That whole like, fuck yeah, I'm better than I've been in a while. And the rest of the song kind of followed. And I just thought that was the way I wanted to end the record. I didn't want to end on a sad note. I wanted to end on a note that had some hope for the future in it, because I think that's that's how I like to try to feel about life, is like, okay, like even though things aren't great all the time, like I try to see some sort of, I suppose, silver lining. I don't know.
That's good though. That's good. I try to see every negative aspect of everything. So we're the exact opposite there, but I wish I was more like you. You know what I mean? Like I hate that I'm such a cynic. I hate that. Like I write, like, as I said last night, actually it was this morning, it was 4:00 this morning. I finished a writing project that like, it was like a collection of different things, like essays, I guess you want to call them. Cause I don't really know if like, if you want to, I don't really know if it's poetry or they're not really short stories. You know what I mean? But like, they span from 2019 to now, but they all came from like these little notes that I had made. Like something pops in my head and I write it down. That kind of thing. And I was reading it when I was done, and I'm like, motherfucker, you are bleak. Like,
well, because I mean, life is exhausting, and there's a lot that can go wrong, and I think that I don't know. Yes, I can definitely be cynical too, trust me. But at the end of the day, if I can't have some semblance of hope, that's just something that keeps me driving forward. I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yes, of course, we all have our days and our times. And there have definitely been times where I felt so down in the dumps. And it's like, I just want to continue to feel like shit all day. Please leave me alone. It's like I need to wallow right now in whatever it is I'm feeling. But like, for the most part, even when I've been in like terrible physical pain, even when things have seemed very bleak, it's like, I guess I've just always tried to find whatever the good stuff is that you can hang on to, whether that's like, I don't know, it can be as small as like, hey, that piece of toast I had was really good.
Yeah, no.
Like just like whatever like small thing that you can grip onto that it's like, okay, that brought me joy. Like,
I know I need to be like that. Like I would be the guy that would be like, why can't every piece of toast taste like that? You know what I'm saying? Like I hate it. I really do. I'm working on years of therapy. You know what I mean? I'm working on that, and things were getting better, and then things took a turn with recent events in the world. Yeah. So, but we're not going to get into that, right?
Trust me, no,
I really do enjoy this album, where like I can just hit play, and like it everything just flows. Like it has, you know what I mean? Like it's just like the waves of water. Like everything just flows in a perfect direction, and like I enjoyed it. I enjoy it. I've listened to it multiple times. I haven't. I will get a copy on vinyl soon enough. But like, yeah, I really do. I really enjoy it. And then like I said, just looking at the artwork on Bandcamp, like I'm like, I can feel this vibe in there, like with the coloring of it and everything. And yeah, I mean, Body, I think because I've known it the longest, because once I realized that was a song, is probably like, I mean, if I can't pick, like, I know the first 4 songs, like they're great. They're great. And that's why they were the singles. You know what I mean? Like they suck you in, right? That's your hook to get in. And then you get there and then you have, Illusion, Crazy, Pretty, which you said are all kind of intertwining. And I have to go back and check for that. Cause like the whole thing to me just feels like that flow anyway. Right. But, then yeah, Queen of No just really like ramps things up again for me. And like, I'm happy that it wasn't a single only because it surprises you like how much it is a single. You know what I'm saying? Like it is a single, but you never released it as one. So it like pulls you right back in. So if there's at any moment, if anybody was listening to this and then like you get to those songs and then you get to Queen of No and you're like, it's like you want 6 more songs. It's just really kind. That's kind of how like I don't know how to like. That's how I describe things. Like when I listen to an album, and like sometimes I'll listen to an album, and I'm like, oh, this is like you can tell like this is the closing track, but then there's like 2 more songs, and you're like, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like this one, like you got the Queen of No, and I felt like we were starting a new album. Like it was like, yes, here we go. You know what I mean?
And there's
like,
only 2 songs left.
And then there's 2 songs, but they're great songs, and better, yeah, definitely a closing track for sure. Like it was, yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. So when do you have to like talk with like the label about tracking, like how you want it to go, or you just give it to them and they're like, all right, cool?
I honestly just kind of gave it to them.
Yeah,
I was given a lot of freedom.
Cool.
So that was cool. At the end of the day, overall a positive experience. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
it was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. And now tell me, like, what is the band like the ensemble of Stress Dolls right now? Is this who recorded this all with you?
No. So actually how that all happened was that I was contacted in early 2022 by Jim Wirt, the producer who worked with me on that record. And he was actually working with the label, he was intertwined with them. And so he had heard the past version of Crazy off the 2016 EP somehow on Spotify. I don't know how they came across it, but they did. And was then interested in working together. And so then I drove out to Cleveland. We recorded a few songs, got signed with the label. Okay. And that's how it all came to be. So actually, Jim plays bass on the whole record. And then the drums and some of the additional guitar work were done by 2 of the engineers who were at the studio. So honestly, like at the time, I was just starting to jam with my bandmates who are playing with me now. I had no idea what this whole thing was going to amount to, like working with this producer and stuff. So I just didn't involve really anybody except Sally Schaefer on violin, who's on Ghostwriter, because she and I had already been playing together for a couple of years up to that point, on and off. We would do duo gigs together. So I felt comfortable kind of letting her in on it and being like, hey, do you want to, come to Cleveland? But I guess I just didn't feel at the time it was necessarily, like, it wasn't necessary to bring it to everybody's attention because they already kind of were filling in the gaps. The label was paying for it. And I was like, okay, fine.
And your songs were already written, and you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's cool how they found you, though. They just found this one song, right? And so at first, I don't know why, I just assumed that they were, like, in Western New York. They're not. They're in Cleveland.
No, they're in Cleveland. Yeah, it was surprising to me. I thought, honest to God.
See, you don't need Nashville.
What's that?
Screw Nashville.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to be in Nashville. It was so funny because I got the email and I thought it was spam. I legitimately, because it was like, hi, Chelsea, my name's Jim. I've worked with like these artists and blah. And I was like, yeah, this is BS. Like, I just like didn't answer it. And I showed it to my boyfriend and was like, yeah, look at this, whatever. He's like, well, why don't you just answer it and see what happens? And I was like, because it's probably not real. And he's like, well, answer. And then all this came to be. So I guess if you think it's spam, it might not be spam.
I think everything I get, I'm like, that's spam. Like, even at my work, I'll report it all, and they're like, hey, this is real. You should probably open it. I'm like, oh, okay.
I mean, it's really easy to think stuff is spam now. I feel it's like,
yeah.
right?
And like, I don't know how far it goes. Right. I don't know when and what do I have to click for them to gain access to my computer? Right. So is it a reply? Mm-hmm. If I reply, does that mean they have like all my information? So I would have thought the same thing.
Right.
But also, as we were saying earlier, like, definitely a negative person. So I was like, no one would want this for me. You know what I mean? So now I wonder about all the stuff I've deleted in spam that maybe it wasn't. Or
you were contacted by like Butch Vig or something.
Yeah. So that's cool how that worked out. And then were all these songs recorded before, like on EPs and stuff?
No, not all of them. The only ones that were recorded before, like I said, Crazy, and then there is a past recording of Spark, but it was actually done in the Wolf era, and I think it's online somewhere, maybe on the Wolf Bandcamp page, but it sounds pretty different.
I'm gonna go find it. I'm gonna go find Wolf.
Yeah, you can go find it if you want.
There's a Wolf thing on. Is it on the Stress Dolls page that I saw?
Yeah, I did put one. I put the EP I mentioned. It's Electric is on the Stress Dolls page.
Okay,
we still play a lot of the songs from that release.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So all right. So what? So when you got out there, what was it like? Were they like, hey, or when they emailed you, like, do you have more songs? Did they ask you if you had more? Or were they just really focused on this one song? Or
so I don't even think that they told me at first that they were focused on Crazy. It was just kind of like, hey, we heard your stuff and we're interested in talking with you. And then I ended up calling an A&R exec who worked with him, and we kind of had a conversation. And he was like, yeah, Jim was really about that one Crazy, that song that he heard. And, would you be interested in coming? And, obviously I was a little wary at first because I'm like, I don't know, is this like, are you trying to get me to go there and then I suddenly owe you like thousands of dollars or something?
Right. Yeah. See?
It's like, what is happening right now? But then once I actually talked to the head of the label, we kind of established like, no, we're like inviting you here on our dime and, like we're going to see how it goes. I was like, all right, well, this is kind of the chance of a lifetime. It's like, going to give it a go, I guess.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah. And like, it's got to feel like, because I mean, you've got a decent body of work here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then for them to hear that, like, it's got to feel good about what's going on.
Yeah, I think as like any artist can probably relate especially when you're an independent artist and you're just grinding at it, and you there are definitely days where it's like, there are people who enjoy it and that is like the most special feeling in the world, but there's like definitely times of frustration where you're like, am I delusional right now? Like, yeah. It's like, I want this to be a little more than maybe it feels like it is at the moment. And that's not to say I was ever ungrateful, but there were definitely moments of like, I guess it's one of those catches, right? Where it's like, you find yourself seeking outside validation where like, in reality, it's like, obviously I do it because I love it. But yes, right. At the same time, it's like
it's nice to get recognized.
It is. And so I think having that recognition from working with this label and working with that producer and stuff, at the end of the day, it was overall like I think just something that helped to boost my own confidence and like make me feel like even if that's the end of the line as far as like working with this label or like maybe an opportunity. Who knows if an opportunity like that will ever come again? I'm not sure. But like the fact that it even happened once was just a really like amazing experience. And I'm just really, so cool. Thankful that it happened. So
yeah. You can ask Chris how many times that dude's talking me off the ledge about this. Like, I'm done. I can't. And he's just like, just relax. I get like, cause like, I don't know, I don't know. Like honestly, one of the things for me is like, and I don't like I'm not an awards person or anything, but we've been nominated for the Boston Music Awards 3 years in a row.
Congrats.
And thank you. And to me, like, that's as much as I want it to go. Like, I don't want to win. I don't because like, I don't know, like, and like, we'll never win. And this is why I say that because like, if you go and check out all the other nominees, like the next person that has the lowest amount of like followers than me is like 1,000 more than me. You know what I mean? So we're like the little fish in this really big pond. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. Like, we do what we do. We get it out there to the people we need to get it out there to. And that's it. But I'm not going to lie. When we get nominated, like, I'm like, it's pretty cool to feel like recognized for that, you know?
It's nice to be recognized, and it's nice to know that people are out there like listening to your work, because like, yeah, you write and you make it not because, you know, when I'm writing, it's such a pure space. It's not like I'm thinking to myself as I'm writing, like, this is gonna, like, you know, blow up. Like, I'm writing this forever. It's like, no, God, no. Like, you're writing because it's an emotional connection and it's something that fulfills you. But like, it's a beautiful thing, I think, when somebody else can connect with that on some level, whatever that means to them, just because it's bringing, once again, the aspect of community, you know, like it's bringing people together, and it's, I don't know. It's just so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I want to ask you, like, you know, cause you say you have chronic illness, and like, you know, this album, you sing about it, or you wrote songs about it. Like, does it, when things started like opening back up because of COVID, like, was it scary for you to get back on stage? Was there any kind of fear there?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I definitely wore my mask a lot longer than maybe some people did. I don't really as much now, you know, like I've brought it with me to shows now, like even this year. And I was like, should I put it on? But then I ultimately don't.
Well, I always got one too. Dirty punk rock kids, man.
Well,
you know?
There's just so many people like in small spaces, you know, and like, but I mean, it is what it is, I suppose. I guess I was a little fearful. You know, what was funny about COVID was that, like I said, leading up to COVID, I was actually homebound quite a bit because I was just feeling so ill, and music helped to get me through it in the sense that like my symptoms usually would calm down by the evenings. So it's like, to be a solo artist, you're playing like 20-minute opening sets at 8 p.m. Great. Like I could manage that, you know, and like that helped me still feel like a person. And like
That's
I was,
awesome.
Which was, you know, I'll always be so thankful for music and for that. But like, I was still spending most of my time at my parents' house, and I was usually inside. So once COVID hit, it really wasn't that big of a change in my lifestyle. You know, it's like, oh, okay, I'm still like home a lot. And then especially because I was in a flare once COVID was happening too. So it's like, yeah, well, I'm not going anywhere anyway. So I think like my sanity, I was able to kind of keep it intact, because it's like, well, I already have been experiencing this reality for like the last, you know, year and a half. Couple of years, just as far as like I am usually at home, like that's so I don't know, but I like for like my you know, my boyfriend, like it hit him really hard because like he is such a social person and he is extremely extroverted, and his job is very extroverted, and like the fact that he was just like sheltered at home all the time was a big deal. So I know it affected everybody differently. You know?
You know, I'm an introvert, and like I didn't do well at all. I'm like, holy shit! Like it made me realize you need people. You know what I mean? Like, because I was living in, and I've told this story. People on the podcast by writing, like, shut up, because I always talk about it. But like, I was in Pittsburgh, and I was the closest person I knew was 500 miles away. And like, I was just there and I was working, and I'm like, this is awful. And I got really sick in November of 2019, and I didn't get better until like March of 2020. And they didn't know what was wrong with me. It was a respiratory infection. Was it COVID? I don't know.
Yeah.
We no way to tell now. You know what I mean? Right. So, but I was like really sick. Like I thought there was a couple times where I thought I was like, I thought that was it. It was over. Like,
it's a scary feeling.
Especially and then I was alone, and I'm like, oh, this is awful, you know. So, but it made me realize I needed people. I needed a community, and so I guess in a way it was good. But you know, coming back out and going back to shows and stuff like that, I was cool with it, you know. But I also like I didn't have anything, you know. I don't have chronic illness or anything like that. So that's why I was just wondering about like getting back on stage and, you know, dealing with all that stuff.
I think being separate too from the audience, like when you're on a stage, you're not feeling like you're in the thick of everybody necessarily. Yeah. So I guess in that way, there was a little bit more of a safety feeling. And
did you play shows with like the plexiglass hanging?
Actually,
I went to shows like that. I went to shows like that.
Did you? Yeah, because I'm thinking about it. I don't think I don't think anything was set up like that. And I think it would have been even scarier had I been on like, cause there are periods of time where I'm on like major immunosuppressives every single day, you know? And like, obviously if that were the case, I think I would have been even more terrified and like, but thankfully it worked out to where I've now had COVID a couple of times, and knock on wood, it was unpleasant, but it didn't take me out in the way that I thought it might.
Yeah, me too now. Like whatever that other thing was, but yeah, I've had it twice now, and it's funny. I had them right at the time I was supposed to go to the Boston Music Awards for 2 years in a row. Oh. This past year was the first year I got to go.
Oh my god!
Yeah. The first time I got it, we were at a show. It was like a Christmas show, and everyone there had to show a vaccination card. Everyone needed to wear masks, and like everyone at the show got sick. We don't know like what happened. Oh. It just happened. It just happened. You can't it just happens. Like it's just it is what it is. Yeah, but so. Yeah, it's just like it was just a weird thing. I mean, it's still kind of a weird thing, right? It's still because it's still there, and people still feel very strongly about it, one way or the other. So it's just adding to everything else that goes on in the world. But good thing we have Stress Dolls to relieve us of that when we listen to Queen of No.
I'm glad to hear it.
So what do you have coming up? What's coming? What's next for Stress Dolls?
What's next is that we have a whole bunch of shows lined up for the spring. And a little, not, I wouldn't say quite touring, but playing a little bit in Pennsylvania, perhaps a little bit in Toronto, a little bit in other areas of New York, I should say, New York State. And then planning some summer shows, and then I'm actually getting married in the fall. So,
congrats!
Yeah, I should say I was my fiance and I say boyfriend because we always feel so funny when it's like fiance, like it sounds so fancy, whatever. But pretty funny. But so I think the fall will probably be a little quiet due to that. But I'm hoping we're going to start working on demos and new recordings, and we'll just take it one day at a time and see what happens. But there's always new songs. So
what's your process for that? Like, are you all writing together, or do you write something and bring it in like bare bones and everyone kind of fills it in?
I write stuff and bring it in. Sometimes I create a demo where I have, I can't play drums, but I'll have like a loop track, and then like I pile on like some bass, some guitar lead ideas, whatever. But I'm open to my bandmates' interpretations, and because they're all very talented players in their own right, and like sometimes they end up bringing really cool ideas that makes the song even better than what I was imagining like initially when I was trying to dream something up.
So
that's cool. That's why I'm kind of excited about these new songs, because perhaps this time around when we go into the studio, we'll actually be with the people who are playing the music live. We can see what can happen with it.
That's awesome. Now, you were saying something about a 10-year anniversary of one of the Wolf EPs?
Right, yeah. I'll mention real quick. So It's Electric. It was released on March 21st, 2015, 10 years ago. And so the person who produced that is Bran Schlia of Steak and Cake Records, a DIY label here in Buffalo.
Oh, I've heard that name.
And I was going to say, Chris knows Steak and Cake real well, and I know he knows Bran. And Bran is amazing. Just a total, like, mastermind in every sense of the word. Like, just so talented, so creative. And he actually was the person who directed all 3 music videos for Queen of No.
Awesome.
But he had texted me a couple months ago and was like, hey, like, you ever want to mix it up again? Just like, playing music together, whatever. And I was like, yeah, let me think about that. And then I realized like, oh shit, like the 10-year anniversary of It's Electric's coming up. Like, do you want to do a redux of this? And so we actually have reworked every song in a totally new way.
Cool.
And we are going to record vocals for that hopefully within the next few weeks. And we're hoping to get it out in time for like the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah. So, when was that again? When's the 10 year?
March 21st. So we will see.
I don't know if this will be out yet, but if it's not, I will make sure there's a link to that as well so people can grab it.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Where can people find Stress Dolls? Where can they find your album? Where's the best avenue to purchase an album? Where are you on social media?
So I think I'd say go to the official site for all links and things. That's stressdollsmusic.com. Okay. And if you go there, you'll see right on the main page all the streaming service links, but also a link to Bandcamp. And that is where you can purchase the vinyl record if you so choose. Or
awesome.
Has some t-shirts too. Angry Girl Music t-shirt, my personal favorite.
I like it.
So that's, and on Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz, but social media is such a weird thing at the moment. So I don't know, but
I know everyone. Yeah, everyone's. I don't know. We have so many now, and like I'm like hanging out. Like I'm only really present in like on Instagram, and like I'm trying out Blue Sky, but like. It's just like when I have to, good thing I work overnights because I set up everything at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So at 4 a.m., I'm like, this is going here, you know what I mean? And that's it, you know, and just let it rip.
Yeah, that's kind of how you have to do it. Also,
Yeah,
it can be completely
I hate it.
all-encompassing and overwhelming, and it's crazy.
I got to stop saying I hate it so much though, because that's how Chris got in. Like Chris started doing my social media, and then like, you know, and then like I said, I'm doing it now. And again, I don't want him to feel bad that I hate it. So you
don't hate it.
I gotta quit it. I gotta quit saying I hate it so much.
If it's, hopefully, I think if social media is functioning in the way that it works best, it's helping to bring people together and, not acting as a tool for stress and negative emotions.
Yeah.
But in any event, so yes, stress styles are all over wherever you want to look. So
awesome. Just give me could you give me like 2 minutes of your time once we wrap this up?
Of course.
All right, cool. We'll wrap it up now. All right, Chelsea, thank you so much. I'm so excited we got a chance to do this. Congrats on an awesome album. Congrats on still being in like that awesome space of independent radio. On the 10th anniversary of the Wolf EP. And the door is always open. I can't believe how much time flew by already. So whenever you want to come back, just hit me up and we'll do this again.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Trev.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Chelsea again for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to all things Stress Dolls. Be sure to pick up Queen and No. It's a fantastic album. Thank you to Chris Chavez, Jeff Bousquet, and Aria Rad for being producers over here at the Struggling Artist Podcast Empire. Check out their Instagrams. You can find Chris at 716 The Sound, Jeff at JRB Image, and Aria at Coffin Salesman. Thank you to Market State Line Records for being sponsor of the podcast. He's been sponsoring us for ever. Much appreciated. Go over to see what Mark has in stock for records. A lot of stuff. He does like these fire sales. I know you can get some of the best records to ever come out of Boston for like under $20. Come on. Eggs are more expensive than that. Head over to StatelineRecords.com. Check out what he has. Thank you to the band Losers Circle for allowing us to use their song, The Great Illusion of Time, off of their album, Took Long Enough. I appreciate you fellas, and I love you all so much. Be sure to buy their record on their Bandcamp. You can find their Bandcamp through a link that we have on our podcast, or our podcast? No, on our website at the struggle, or no, not at, there's no ats with the website, www.thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. Everyone over at Patreon supporting us, I appreciate you so much for your contributions every month. I hope you all enjoy what we have over there. Go see what we have. Patreon.com/podcast TSA. Not too expensive. And it helps with what we do. And you get to be part of the events and stuff like that. You know, you're like a producer, which is awesome. And you can go to them. I promise you can go to them. It's okay. You can come to my house. If you're a patron, you can come to my house, eat my food, and drink my drink. That can't get much better than that. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast, shares, tells people about us. It's much appreciated. If you need to get a hold of me, Trev at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. Or you can text or leave a voicemail on the hotline, the Struggling Artist Hotline at 774-570-1552. Again, that number is 774-570-1552. All right, it's time to get out of here with a song. Chelsea was kind enough to give us a song to play off of Stress Dolls' latest album, The Queen of No. This song is called Body. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.
To do the things I tell it to. It's covered in guilt and my inherent attitude. Who I am on the paper never translates to life. Ask me your questions and I'll give you the thought. Connected so clearly in the tones of these bones. The sounds of the choir all rise. The body sings. My body ain't shy to let me know it needs a fix. It coos and it cries until I get the best of it. Who we are on the surface is forgot late at night. When we all go home alone and face morning light. Shining so brightly through your bedroom window. The sounds of the trail all rise. The body sings ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. The body sings ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. The body sings, why do you